Hi, if you are planning on exporting to or importing from Ukraine. It is obvious that you will have to understand what the situation is with regard to shipping your goods. In this presentation, I will cover the current situation with regard to shipping cargo by river, sea, railways, road, and air. But first, I will start with explaining how the war has impacted the Ukrainian logistics industry. The start of the war in February 2022 brought major disruptions to the Ukraine transportation system. Ukraine's seaports were and are under continuous attacks. The airports were shut down from the first day of the war. Furthermore, according to the European Business Association, in 2024, 53% of businesses reported direct damages from hostilities. However, the good news is that over 40% have already restored their damaged assets. Nonetheless, it is true to say that the logistics industry is suffering as it is a main target of the war. This has resulted in shipment delays and increased costs. For example, many exports had to be redirected to EU seaports, in particularly to Constanta in Romania and Burgas in Bulgaria, as well as to the Polish, Croatian, German and Dutch ports. Although alternative shipping routes were quickly found, Ukrainian exporters still face several problems, specifically lack of port capacity for transshipment of Ukrainian exports, and lack of warehouse space for the accumulation of shipping lots. As a result, the average distance to dispatch ports for Ukrainian exporters increased 5 times, and the shipping costs to the port of destination raised by an average of 3 to 4 times, but these problems are being overcome. Let's deal first with the most straightforward channel, air cargo. Air cargo is the most straightforward channel to deal with because it is no longer possible. Ukrainian airspace is closed to civil aviation, making direct air cargo flights impossible. Air cargo transportation to Ukraine is currently facilitated primarily through multimodal delivery, utilizing airports in neighboring like Poland, Romania, and Hungary. Warsaw, Krakow, Budapest, and Chisinau airports now serve as key hubs for air cargo to and from Ukraine. Urgent goods are usually shipped to these nearby airports and then transported by road to their final destination within Ukraine, or vice versa. Okay, airports are closed, but all the other routes are open, so let's take a look at the waterborne options. Here you can see the main sea and river ports and how they connect to the rest of Ukraine by both road and rail connections. So the Danube river ports provide routes into Central Europe, and the Western Black Sea ports are still operating to provide access to the rest of the world. On the next slides, we'll look at these in a little more detail. The river routes, although the Danube ports are operating at less than half capacity, they are still strategically important for specialist cargo to the EU and for transshipment via the Romanian Black Sea port of Constanta to other countries. The latest figures for 2024 showed that the cargo shipped by the Danube ports was 17.3 million tons. But as I said, this is still less than half of pre-war volumes, but nonetheless significant. However, as we will see on the next slide, the sea corridor is by far the more important. For 2024, this amounted to almost 80 million tons of cargo, more than 4 times the volume of river traffic. In August 2023, Ukraine announced a temporary route for civilian vessels moving from the Ukrainian Black Sea seaports of Odessa, Chornomorsk, and Pivdeny. This shipping route was opened weeks after Russia's unilateral termination of the Black Sea grain deal. The corridor travels along the western coastline of the Black Sea, which is shallower than the central part, making it less suitable for Russian submarines. Although the temporary export corridor is not fully safe, it provides Ukrainian exporters with a route for their traditional exports of agricultural and other bulk products to the world's markets. As I mentioned on the previous slide, although down on 2021 volumes, in 2024 nearly 80 million tons were exported by sea routes. On the next slide, we'll look at rail routes. Railway routes. The Ukrainian railway company directly cooperates with the railways of Moldova, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and Hungary. The networks connect through 40 international railway border crossings. On this slide, you can see the main railway crossings into the EU and Moldova. The image on the right-hand side of the slide shows the volume shipped by rail during the first 5 months of 2024. That's more than 21 million tons, which represents more than 50 million tons per year. This volume is expected to increase as the infrastructure connecting the Ukrainian railway system to that of the EU countries is upgraded. Most Ukrainian railways have a different gauge to that of the EU. This makes connections a little more structurally difficult. For more information about Ukrainian railways, see the link in the description below. In addition to the railways, the other means of land transport is, of course, by road. We'll have a quick look at this on the next slide. The option of road transport represents a major flexible shipment channel to and from Ukraine. In fact, Ukrainian companies increased their usage of road transport as a response to logistics constraints with the other means of transport. The blockade of seaports, limited capacity of railway crossings, and the cessation of air cargo possibilities. This response can be seen in the increased number of Ukrainian trucks border passages with Poland of 34% in 2022 and 20% in 2023. However, there's no painless solution. There are long waiting times to enter the EU, which can often be measured in days. This causes the inevitable increase in costs and disruption to supply chains. The EU is fully aware of these problems and is working to alleviate them through their EU-Ukraine solidarity lanes. These lanes are designed to streamline cargo connections between the EU and Ukraine. I'll explain this in a little more detail on the next slide. As part of the EU's solidarity response with Ukraine, the European Commission presented its Solidarity Lanes Action Plan. This is designed to help Ukraine export its goods and to import what it needs via rail, road, and inland waterways. This plan is being implemented through the streamlining of documentation controls, scaling up European co-financing of infrastructure projects, improving connecting infrastructure at the borders and to the trans-European transport energy networks. Today, the EU-Ukraine solidarity lanes have become the lifeline of Ukraine's economy. On the next slide, you'll see how important and wide-ranging these solidarity lanes are. On this slide, you can see how important and wide-reaching these EU-Ukraine solidarity lanes are. In fact, although not shown here, they reach deep into Iberia, Italy, Ireland, and Scandinavia. Ukraine is becoming well and truly connected to the EU. Well, we're nearly at the end of the presentation. It just remains for me to show you the names and details of 3 key Ukrainian logistics associations and provide you with some of my conclusions. Ukrainian Logistics Trade Associations. The 3 key Ukrainian logistics trade associations are the Association of International Freight Forwarders of Ukraine, the Association of International Road Carriers of Ukraine, the Association of Ukrainian Ports. If you need to contact them, links to their websites are included in the description below. Or if you prefer to contact ICC Ukraine on any logistics questions, you'll find my email address in the description below. You will also see on the next slide that major international logistics companies are currently operating in Ukraine, which should also add comfort to the situation. So we can see that the major shipping and logistics companies are still operating in Ukraine. This is just a small example. DHL, MSC, Maersk, DSV, and Schenker, CMA, CGM, Hapag-Lloyd, Evergreen Line, and many others. If these companies are operating into and out of Ukraine, you know that there are practical solutions for your requirements. Right, I'm ready with my concluding comments. Okay, here are my concluding remarks. The war has created different challenges. The closure of the airports, the partial blockade of Ukrainian seaports, shortage of freight transport, overstocked warehouses, increased delivery times, increased transport costs, as well as energy supply disruptions and other irritations. However, in general, Ukrainian companies have adapted to war conditions, they redirected cargo to ports of other countries, and diversified their supply routes. They restructured fuel supply systems and increased the use of road transport. Closer cooperation and integration with the EU and its logistical networks and documentary procedures remain a priority. Free navigation through the Ukrainian Black Sea ports remains the basis for economy stability in Ukraine. Well, that's it. It just remains for me to say thank you for your interest and attention. So indeed, thank you for watching the video Ukrainian Logistics. I hope you found this information useful. And if you did, it would greatly help us if you could click on the like button and subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Also, please share this video and playlist with your colleagues and business contacts. We would really appreciate that. Above all else, remember, ICC Ukraine and our partners are here to help. If you need any help at all, our contact details are shown on this slide and in the description below. My name is Alexei Kozhanov. Together we can build a better future. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for watching this video.